Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you'll please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, once again, we assemble ourselves in the seat of government of Cartersville, Georgia. Father, we ask you for grace and mercy and guidance as we do the business of the city. We thank you for another day and all you've done for us thus far. And we look forward to the future that you continue to do for us and bless us in many, many ways. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Drake, roll please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1.
Here.
Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Carrie Roth, Ward 3.
Here.
Calvin Cooley, Ward 4.
Here.
Gary Fox, Ward 5.
Here.
Alyssa Cordell, Ward 6.
Here.
Thank you, Julia. First order of business is the approval of the council meeting minutes from March 7th. Council, you've had an opportunity to look these minutes over and make any edits at this time. If there are none to be had, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Mr. Porter, get us started off with an appointment, please.
Yes, Mayor. Etowah Area Housing Authority, Layman Smith is willing to continue to serve on that board, and his term, if approved, will be expiring April 1 of 2029.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Menino, you've got the floor for quite a while here.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Stephen Smith, our Ward 2 appointee to the Planning Commission, has resigned. Mr. Stepp has nominated Matthew Womack to replace him for a term which will expire January 31st, 2028.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. As Mr. Lovell noted briefly before this meeting, Z24-02 as it relates to 496 Mission Road has been withdrawn, so that will not be taken up this evening. We'll move on to T24-02. Randy?
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This is a proposed text amendment to the city's sign ordinance, or specifically the billboard section to the sign ordinance. Billboards are only allowed on certain segments of roadway, and all of them are state routes. With that, the applicant is requesting that a section of South Tennessee Street be added to the groups of roadways that allow for billboard installation. With that, the section they are adding would go on South Tennessee Street from the center line of Justice Robert Benham Drive down to Peachtree Street. It's approximately 1,000 feet. With that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment to the sign ordinance. The applicant is here and does have representation.
And again, if you're looking at that, they don't, just as Robert Benham Drive doesn't actually intersect Tennessee, it kind of
It doesn't.
traverses it. It flies over the top of it. But
So
it does.
if you're going along South Tennessee
Yeah.
Street, our point would be at the center
Right.
line where
I got you.
it goes over to the center line down to Peachtree Street, where it would extend into Tennessee.
Those of
Street.
us that are a little directionally challenged, I was trying to help them out a little bit.
That's why David has a map there.
That's right. Thank you for that. And with that being said, does anybody have any questions for Randy at this time relative to this?
I probably should have asked this earlier, but is this for a billboard or any like electronic billboard or?
It is for a billboard. I believe the applicant noted they do have a property that they want to place a billboard on, and it was noted to Planning Commission that it would not be an electronic billboard.
Because there's no residents. I'm concerning the electric billboard. There's no residents are pretty far from there, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
They would still have to meet the state requirements and separation requirements from billboard to billboard and from residential area to billboard.
Okay. Any questions for Randy at this time? Thank you. I'll open up a public hearing for T24-02 and ask anybody who wishes to step forward to do so at this time. And as you well know, your name and your address for our clerk, please.
Yes, I'm Bobby Walker, 15 South Public Square. I'm attorney at Jenkins, Bowen and Walker. I represent the applicant, Tilly Outdoor LLC. To address your question, Councilman Roth, this would not be an electronic billboard. We are proposing to amend section 20-29A, which would permit a static billboard to be located in the city. In fact, 20-29B2 deals with electronic billboards and lists 5 or actually 6 separate roads on which electronic billboards can be located.
Okay.
And we would have to, that particular text of the ordinance would have to be amended in order to have an electronic billboard located on South Tennessee Street, and we are not asking to amend that subsection. We are also not, asking for any variances at this time. We, intend to comply with all of the general standards that would apply to static billboards. The property is located more than sufficient distance. It's a little over 1,000 feet from the nearest residence. It is, of course, located on a state highway, and is located on a state route, just like the other 5 roads that are currently listed in the ordinance, which is Highway 41, Highway 411, State Route 20, State Route 113, and West Avenue, or a portion of West Avenue. So we did approximate the distance when in the application to be 1,000 feet, which would have taken it just a little further south than Peachtree Street. The Planning Commission, in their review and recommendation, asked if we as the applicant would be willing to amend that, or ask an application to change that to end at the center line of South Tennessee and Peachtree, and we of course indicated that we would be willing to do that, and the Planning Commission's recommendation was that it be approved with that recommendation, that it run from the center line of Justice Benham and South Tennessee south to the center line of South Tennessee and Peachtree Street. And we have provided amended language to that effect to the city, and that's what we are asking for at this point.
Okay. Any questions at this time? Thank you, sir.
All right.
Again, this is a public hearing for the text amendment T24-02, and anybody wishing to step forward and speak for or against may do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for T24-02. Council will take this up for another public hearing and final consideration at our meeting on April the 4th. Randy, if you'll let us continue on with SU 24-02.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This is a request to allow an apartment behind office and commercial space located at 123 Leek Street. Our ordinance allows in the DVD apartments above, behind, and below. This is a typical request. We've got several of these in the downtown business district. With that, Planning Commission did recommend approval of this application. There was a stipulation on there that if that it be nullified, this request is for the current property owner. If that property owner sells the property, the new owner would have to come in and renew the special use for that. At the time, Planning Commission, like I said, did recommend it with that recommendation, and I believe the applicant was fine with that.
Okay. Thank you. Questions for Mr. Menino at this point? Thank you, sir. I'll open up a public hearing for SU 24-02. Anybody wishing to step forward, speak for or against may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for SU 24-02. Council will take this up for another public hearing and final consideration on our April 4th meeting. Please continue on, Randy.
And this is my last request of the evening. This is ZMA 24-01. This is our annual map amendment to the zoning map. We take the previous year's annexations and zonings and renew the map with those cases now included on the map. Additionally, we also do some map corrections and some other things. We added some city properties to there in the public institutional district and so forth. David provided some data of all the properties that were changed per this map amendment. Planning Commission did recommend approval of this.
Okay. Thank you. Questions for Randy at this time? Thank you. I guess I do need a public hearing for this, don't I?
Yeah, we opened a public
Yeah.
hearing and then
Yeah, we'll go public hearing. I'll open that up for ZMA 24-01. And again, anybody wishing to step forward and speak on this application, or this amendment rather, can step forward and do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for ZMA 24-01. And again, this will be decided on after another public hearing at our meeting on April 4th. Mr. Bagley, you are up next.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is the ordinance revision that modifies the language describing the appearance of the city's corporate seal. This will make it match the design description of the seal in our new city branding system.
Thank you. Any questions for Logan on this? Any discussion? If there's none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Logan. Mr. Lovell, you have the next item.
Yes, Mayor, this is an amendment to our speeding violation ordinance, which is going to increase the fine amounts for individuals that have more than a second offense of speeding within the city of Cartersville within a 5-year period. For a second offense, it's going to increase it to 100, third offense $250, and fourth or greater offense $500.
Thank
It
you.
is recommended by court staff and the police department for your approval.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve?
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Keith. Mr. Dixon, you're up now. We've got several amendments to our gas rate ordinance. And what we'll do, council, is we'll let Mr. Dixon go through all 5 of those, and we'll handle those in one motion, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In reviewing our interruptible gas rates, we noticed that the purchase gas cost 3 rate rider adjustment of 4% was not consistent with the other purchase gas cost rate rider adjustments that are 7%. Therefore, I recommend adjusting the PGC 3 rate rider to 7% to be consistent with the other PGCs and the other rates. I'm also recommending to increase capital improvement charge that helps fund our infrastructure from 22.8 cents to 26.8 cents, to 26 cents per decatherm, and to update some definitions and miscellaneous service charges in these ordinances. These changes will not affect residential customers. They only affect interruptible customers. Council's approval of these amendments is recommended.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions on any of the proposed amendments that are referred to in section 24-231, 24-233, 24-224, 24-225, or 24-226? If there are none, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And just to clarify, approve all 5 of those amendments. Thank you.
All 5?
Thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Michael. Next item, please.
Yes, sir. The gas system is requesting the purchase of 432 Sonic IQ 425 meters for stock or sole source provider Equipment Controls Company. Provided a quote of $215,084.16. This is a budget item and council's approval is recommended.
Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Bless you. Steel pipe purchase.
Yes, sir. We're also requesting the purchase of 3,511 feet of 6-inch steel pipe and 1,400 feet of 8-inch steel pipe for the SK America project and the Highland 75 project. The 3 bids were requested, but only 2 complete bids were submitted. Irby Utilities of Kennesaw, Georgia submitted a low bid of $91,748.01. This is a budget item and council's approval to accept this bid is recommended.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion.
Make a motion to approve the purchase?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Last one for you, Michael.
Yes, sir. Gas Systems requesting the purchase of an additional compact excavator to support a newly approved fourth construction crew. Reinhardt Equipment Company of Rome, Georgia submitted a quote using Sourcewell pricing in the amount of $90,520.32. We opened sealed bids for an identical compact excavator on December 12th of 23, and Reinhardt Equipment Company submitted the low bid at that time. Council approved this purchase on January 4th of 24. We do not believe that there would be a significant price difference if the bids were requested again. Therefore, we recommend that council approve this quote. This is not a budget item, but will be paid for with gas system revenues.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
you.
While Mr. Greer is making his way to the podium, Chair will entertain a motion to add one item to the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Hodge has the motion, Mr. Raw has the second. How about that? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And we have one item added. Mr. Greer, you've got this one lonely little item you've got to share with us tonight.
That's the way I like it. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is a budgeted annual support renewal for our Fortinet EDR security software. This is basically new age antivirus, AI-driven, protects all of our servers and computers from malicious attacks. Total is $36,490 from Blue Ally, and it's recommended for your approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief Champion, you're up next.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request to rescind the March 7th approval of the purchase of Paratech equipment in the amount of $42,697.79 through Georgia Fire and Rescue. Due to unforeseen business changes and circumstances, we're requesting to go through Team Equipment, which is the master distributor for Paratech, for a purchase of the same product at $42,619.13. We do recommend this for approval.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Chief Champion? If there's no questions, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to rescind the bid from Georgia Fire and Rescue and approve the bid from Master Distributor.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Bagley, you're up again.
Yes, sir. This is a request to work with Laura J. Designs to create a print piece for the city's 175th anniversary next year. Laura J. and her team will not only create the design of the piece itself, but also work with us as a consultant, meeting with myself and forming a project team to help us curate the content that will be in this design. I did want to note one thing I left out in work session. This quote does not include the printing of the book, as that piece will be bid out in the future. And also at that time, we can take in consideration selling versus giving away the print piece. The total cost for the design and consulting piece is $9,980.
Okay. I didn't think about this in the work session. Does Mr. Archer approve of this 175th anniversary, or is it the other 175th anniversary?
Mr. Archer says this is the 175th anniversary. And as he did put the last 3 books together, he said he'll be happy to help if they ask.
I was going to say, we do hope to
That's
have
good.
Mr. Archer involved as well.
If he says no, just go to his Facebook page. He's been putting out a
Pulling
bunch
off
of good
there.
stuff, yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Any intelligent on-topic discussion points or questions? If there are none, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Logan. Mr. Wilson, you have the next series, including that added item that we just put on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Late last week, Georgia Department of Transportation officially notified the city of Cartersville that we are eligible for $385,998 in supplemental LMIG grant money with no local matching funds required. Public Works is requesting the mayor's signature on the grant application associated with these documents. In addition, we recommend approving a additional budget of an additional $100,000 beyond the total grant money to take advantage of the relatively low cost that we currently have under our current contract. List of streets resurfacing on this new contract, if we are approved, are Summit Street, Thornwood Drive, and let me make note that is the public portion of Thornwood Drive, and Southview Drive, Jones Street, Ruby Street, and Mayflower Circle. It's a total of 1.77 miles, bringing our total resurfacing project this year be at 7.49 miles. Based on the quantities utilized, we will make minimum adjustments as needed to stay below the amount, the not to exceed cost of $485,998.
Thank you. I'll make just a couple of quick points in that before people say, well, why aren't you paving my road? The city or the Public Works has a scoring system on these roads, and it's done in the order that we can afford them and how bad they are. So everybody their road might think theirs is bad, but there's a scoring system and a method to it. The other thing is, I think it's important for the public to note that this council, as revenues have gone in a good direction for the city, that we've continued to put more and more resources towards paving to get more and more surface covered. And this is, again, as we just said, an additional $100,000, and again, continuing to budget a little bit more so that we can get our roads. We'd love to pave everything every 5 years if we could, but certainly limitations. But with that being said, this LMIG contract, paving contract, is there any questions or discussion on that? If
I
there's
would like
not,
to say one thing.
oh yes, sir.
It's the little old lady on Jones Street. I'm gonna mention your name. She's gonna really thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Make sure you mention my name too.
Yeah.
I will do that.
That's good.
Or maybe Stephen Foy. Stephen's working on a lot of this and making sure him and Tommy Rozier, and they're out there with the paving companies now. So, and it's going on right now. So if you hadn't seen it, in the Civic Center areas where they've been working.
Big
Fantastic.
surprise.
Thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please. Wait.
Yes, sir. So in 2022, we did a Tennessee Street corridor study. It was actually paid for by the MPO, Cartersville Bartow MPO. And through that study, there was a couple areas identified that could potentially benefit from a roundabout, one of which is Collins Street and Tennessee Street. GDOT has looked at different ways of funding this project. We have requested how it could get done with some additional funding, and we've kind of gotten back and forth with it. But the last suggestion that was made is we apply for what's called a EEE a grant, which is part of the LMIG grant. Kind of the same pot of money, but just a little bit different when we're requesting that they don't take this money that you just approved for resurfacing away from us. So we are requesting that. The total project cost for this, engineering and construction, is around $2.5 million. So we're just applying for this grant, this EEE grant, which I did find out was Education, School Access, Economic Development, and Emergency. So I assume they're looking at this from economic development. But so we're requesting that the mayor be able to sign the documents and application to see if we can get these fundings.
Okay.
I would like to thank Wade and Stephen Foy, because they've been working hard to try to get this to reality, and see if we can get additional funds to help pay for this project.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Wade, we've got some roof replacements that we added to the agenda for you. Why don't you tell us about it?
Thank you. We opened bids up March 15th for the re-roof various buildings at Public Works, which are highlighted in the picture there. We had 10 bidders actually respond to this. They ranged from $181,975.20 to $472,757.18. The low bidder was Caliber Construction. Public Works recommends accepting Caliber's construction bid by the mayor's signature to the contract agreements that have been previously signed by the bidder. Please note that we have added a requirement having a payment and performance bond, which will increase that bid by $11,000, and so the total is $192,975.20. And they still are the low bidder. I think I provided, I don't know if that's what I handed you, Julie, sorry about that. The bid documents around the bid tab. So they still are by far the lowest. We recommend approval of it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wilson on this? If there are none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Wade. And you've got one more to deal with here.
Yes, sir. So this is, so Bartow County Solid Waste earlier this year notified us that our tipping fees at the Bartow County landfill will increase to cover future expansions, inflation, labor, and ever-changing regulations that they are incurring. This increase to the city will result in an increase of 59% from January 2023 to September of 2028. Public Works recommends adopting new solid waste rates through an ordinance amendment to address these increases. The amendment will actually decrease the base rate for residential solid waste, yet reflect an added fee based on estimated tipping fees at the Bartow County landfill, which is currently estimated to be approximately $3 per average garbage cart, which is the brown cart, per month. All residential and commercial services with Kirby's will have an additional fee provided on their monthly bill showing this. In addition, we'll recommend increasing most of the commercial solid waste rates, which are the containers, by ranging from 2.5% to 15%, depending on the container size and the dumping frequency. We have adjusted these proposed fees to better align with other commercial rates. If approved, we are proposing this to be on the May utility bills, as long as that's, as long as it is approved. And this is the first reading.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. This is, again, in an effort to be more transparent with our customers, to kind of show what they pay for and what they are paying for. We certainly understand, I think every one of our departments here understands increased costs and increased regulation. So certainly know what the county is going through, but I think that line item on the bill will, as we move forward, will accurately reflect what is the result of that regulation and costs at the landfill versus the costs and regulations we're dealing with in our Public Works Department. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Again, first reading, we'll have a second reading of this ordinance at our meeting on April 4th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morgan, you are up, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. We're bringing before you the AMI opt-out program. In earnest, we started replacing the AMI meters in 2023, and we're about 64% done. We have almost 34,000 meters out there. So this is to help us to reflect. We have about 5 customers that have wanted to opt out. This is to help us reflect that true cost to us to continue to read that when we can read it remotely. So we're trying to bring this before you all and asking for your approval of this ordinance. It lists some different stipulations, but it does allow those customers to opt out for that price that it costs us to read their meters.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I'd just point out, Freddie's done research on this, checked other communities, what the process is, Georgia Powers is. Obviously, we're trying to be as efficient as possible for our customers, but if they do decide to opt out, there is a cost for us to roll a truck, personnel, and time to continue to read that meter as it ages out in the system. And eventually, that meter will have to be changed out to the newer technology, but initially, we'll allow them to stay on if they want to pay the additional fee. It's what's being recommended.
And this is in the fees. I know we talked about it in the work session.
Yes, sir. We tried to utilize economies of scale. For 1 meter, it was $35. For 2 or more, if you had all 3, it would be $70. We felt that once you're at the property and you're reading a couple, that other one would not be.
And is this in line with what other communities that have an
Yes, sir.
opt-out
Now,
program?
Georgia Power's rate is in the 20s, but they're reading 1 service. Other communities have done it, and they've done different surcharges. So they've done other charges to say that for due to this meter, or for us to keep the older meter, there's a cost for that. And it's reflective all over the board.
And I believe you said in the work session, we're about 62% through with the
63,
installation.
yes, sir.
And there have been about 5 households that have
Yes, sir.
has
Yes, sir.
opted out.
Out of our 34,000.
So we're doing what we can to
Yes.
accommodate a very limited number of people.
And what has happened, and again, when we have contractors replacing these, some have refused then, and we've gone back out with city personnel. They've allowed us to do it. It's just it may have been they weren't comfortable letting them on their properties and do those things. But those 5, yes, sir. And we didn't have a policy in place, so those have been brought, they were taken out of the scope of work last year. So we haven't charged any of them for this. We needed to put some things in place. There'll be a small application process, so we have on site, on service, they know what this is, and they're asking for this.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Morgan on this item? Again, first reading, we'll take it up for a second reading on April the 4th. Please continue, sir.
Yes, sir. The New World, it's a software maintenance agreement. It's our collaboration with Bartow County. Our portion of this is $43,734.43. This covers our police and fire departments and their piece into that 900 megahertz system.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? If there's none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Spry Point Customer Portal.
Yes, sir. This is a change order that SpryPoint wanted us to look at. They had stated, they said in their scope of work that we would have had to do a PDF statement, so we objected to that because we don't print every bill. So what they did is did the change order, showed us what the cost of the work is, and zeroed that out so we wouldn't have any additional costs, because we were prepared to walk away from the agreement if we had to do those things. So this is that, and it requires an authorized signature. We're asking the council to approve the mayor to be able to sign it.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Freddie. And let's see, Mr. Forsythe, you've got a couple of items here tonight.
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is the renewal of an engineering services agreement with Schweitzer Engineering. It's the exact same agreement that we have previously. It just expired on January 1st of this year. Along with that, there are 2 task orders that I'm requesting you approve. Task order 2B is for construction management services for the Grassdale Road water main relocation project. The cost for those services is $168,000. Task order 5A is construction management services for the altitude and check valve replacement project at our water storage tanks for $70,000. Both of those are budgeted items and is all recommended for your approval for the engineering services agreement as well as both task orders.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. And Mr. Roberts, you're the one that has 2. Try not to wear my glasses tonight. I'm showing how bad I need them.
Good afternoon. Parks and Recreation is seeking approval to add the pavilion construction documents as a change order to the Matthew Hill Stadium Step Project. What we're looking at is a pavilion that would cover the existing, where the existing tennis courts lay, but we will also convert those over to 2 basketball courts. So it would be a very similar to the bigger one, but hopefully have more of a feel of the bottom right. So size-wise, it would be more like the other 2. But this pavilion would allow year-round use of the basketball courts and will serve as an event space for the community. The change order documents will have a scope of work that consists of schematic design, construction documents, construction admin, and a 3D rendering. That 3D rendering is optional. We would use it if you wanted it, kind of to kick off the project, maybe put it in the paper. It's an expensive option, but it would give us some renderings to kind of celebrate what that is. So that is optional, and we'll kind of speak with that, kind of figure if we're going to use that or not. But the total change order would be $51,810. The estimated cost for the additional pavilion as a whole project would be $800,000. But again, this would allow us to send out those RFPs to get a price on construction. So the staff does recommend approval.
Thank you.
One question, is this, I know there's like a little mini basketball court on the end of the tennis court.
Right.
Would you cover all of the paved area?
No,
all the
actually,
hard surface, rather?
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Actually, the way this will have to happen is obviously as large as this construction is, as we're building this, that blacktop will actually kind of get destroyed. So we'll actually take that blacktop up. The plan would be to move that over about 10 feet It would actually give us more room between the stadium steps coming down and where that currently is right now. All those light poles and everything are gonna leave because this would have lights. So that whole project would kind of move over about 10 to 12 feet, and we would have to relay that back down. So if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just didn't know how, if you're
Yeah.
gonna,
No,
if
it would-
it was not gonna stay that, I mean, that's
No,
fine.
it would
If
be,
it's not gonna
it
stay
would
that
be
hard
pretty
surface,
much
it's fine.
about the same size as the tennis courts minus that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, any other questions? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Last item for you, sir.
And as you recall, back in July, we did take out our concession contract, just from a standpoint of the timing that would work for our system better. But we did send this out to RFP. We did get back 3, but we have chose to look at Top Shelf to continue to provide that concessions. This contract will run through December 31st of this year, and then from this point on, we'll start renewing that and doing that on January 1st so it would be a year to date from that date. So, but Top Shelf concession does align with our programs and gives the city 15% of their gross monthly revenue. So,
Great. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Before you go anywhere, Steve, Dan wanted to make a comment.
So the mayor and council got a handout, program guide. I know Councilman Roth, about a year or two ago, you asked about this. You saw that in Martin County. Steve took this upon himself along with his team, so I appreciate the work you guys put into this. And he'll be doing this going forward every year to show our citizens what programs we have. And we discussed this, but it looks like a great program to put together, so I appreciate you taking that time.
Like I said, I would like to give that recognition to Brianna McCreary. She worked very hard on that. Me and her spent a few hours looking at it, and the first one will be kind of our most basic one. After this, we'll use that template to kind of keep building on it. So hopefully each one you get will be a little bit better with a little bit more detail. So,
Thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
Tom, finance report.
Honorable Mayor and Council, we're looking at the January 2024 and comparing to January 2023. And the general fund revenues increased over last year by $2.5 million. Expenses increased by $3.4 million. Areas of revenue I look at in the general fund are local option sales tax, have an increase there of about $700,000. Building permits and inspection fees have an increase there of about $32,000. Water and sewer fund revenues increased over last year by $2.4 million. Expenses increased by $8.4 million. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased debt service expenses, increased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. The gas fund revenues decreased over last year by $12.2 million. Expenses decreased by $9.9 million. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased cost to purchase gas, increased capital expenses, decreased debt service expenses, and increases in the transfers to the general fund. In the electric fund, revenues increased over last year by $1.2 million. Expenses increased by $1.6 million due to decreased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, increased cost to purchase electricity, increased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. Stormwater fund revenues increased over last year by $130,000. Expenses decreased by $11,000. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. In the solid waste fund, revenues increased over last year by $275,000, and expenses increased by $56,000. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. And finally, in the fiber optics fund, revenues decreased over last year by $940,000. Expenses decreased by $32,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased debt service expenses, decreased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. In our cash position for January 2024, total unrestricted cash balances increased, while the restricted cash balances slightly decreased. Two accounts I look at on a monthly basis: SPOS accounts. SPOS 2014 and balance there is $231,991.10, and SPOS 2020 has a balance of $12,316,685.06.
Mr. Mayor, as you guys can see in the numbers that Tom has presented, doing fairly well at this point in time, 7 months into the year. Appreciate Tom's work and all department heads on this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the finance report? Is there any other business that needs to come before council this evening?
I have a
What, you've come forward and stand up here, give us your name and your address, and you got 3 minutes.
I would just ask for a little bit more, not a lot.
You can ask for more, but you're getting 3 minutes. Your name and your address, please.
Jason Trainer, I live in Cartersville, Georgia. I want to ask the question about the Tennis House Bill HB 1894. What is that supposed to do to prevent vaccines to be put in our lettuce? Another question. A couple months ago, there was an incident where a cop drove his vehicle off the bridge, and a woman was handcuffed, and she died in the car. Has there been any re-education for people that are not bad offenders? That woman died senselessly. She died in a senseless act. So my question is, has the city council member addressed that member about that woman that died in that car being handcuffed? It bothers me that I've grown up in a small city, and what really happens in cops that abuse their power, nothing happens. Because they have qualified immunity, they get away with doing stuff like that. So how are you going to address that? One other question. We can pass all the bills we want, city council members. The squatters get into houses that people buy. Bills are not going to change people's actions. Actions from law enforcement or peacekeepers should drive them out of people's houses that legally own them. One last thing. Last month I talked about the homeless shelter. Never stop fighting to fix a broken system that was designed to be broken. That fights against each one of us in relation to the people of the homeless community, where affordable rent is far out of their reach, when paying $1,500 is too much for them to look onto. When I see so many like under 10,000, 20,000 people in Georgia, the people of the homeless community living on the streets of my new home, I ask myself, why am I so lucky to have a place to live in? John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Now, Georgia was growing up with faith. We talk about it, but do we really believe it? And have a one-of-a-kind, beautiful Lord to look upon in my good days and my bad days. Why do people call my country? I'm almost done with this.
That's your 3 minutes, sir.
I can't, it's just this much right here.
I understand, and you have 3 minutes, and your comments are done for the evening. So thank you for your comments. Any other business that needs to come before council this evening? Chair will entertain a motion. We have cause to go into closed session for personnel. Chair will entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Moved. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. We will go into closed session for an unspecified period of time. We will come back and
We may add something
we
to
may.
the agenda, or we may not, but either way, we will come back and adjourn the meeting.
Yes. Thank you.
Let's see. Two are media.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was.
One is an employee in the electric department. Does pizza go bad? No, I'm serious. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know that either.
We need the air fixed. Dan, how fast can we get an air conditioner unit?
We'll find out, hopefully in the next 2 weeks.
I'm gonna tell you, they gonna have one by not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, or court is canceled. I'm not sitting in here all day with no air conditioning. That is not happening.
Is that the
We could go old
Huh?
school.
Is that the violence?
No, that's just regular court on
Oh,
Monday.
regular court.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, it doesn't matter, if there's no AC, I'm canceling it.
You can borrow my fan. It's not much, but
Yeah.
it keeps the hot air moving.
Huh?
Yes, yeah, each floor.
Yeah, each floor's got its own.
Code enforcement's gonna be out on the road tomorrow. They won't be sitting and doing paperwork. They're gonna be out on the
You
road.
got that right.
There's gonna be more.
I feel sorry
violations
for
tomorrow.
anybody that's violating codes tomorrow,
It's
because they're
be a
gonna get
bunch of
busted.
Violations. I gotta get that couch off my front porch.
After you sleep on it tonight, right?
Yeah. I just had to move it in.
Call this meeting back into order. Chair will entertain a motion to add an item to the agenda.
Motion to add an item to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, Mayor, the item y'all have chosen to add to the agenda is a resolution regarding the recommendation of the city manager with respect to the electric superintendent, and I'll let him go into the details.
Yes, Mayor and City Council, as discussed, I've gone through a process of evaluating Mr. Hampton through numerous occasions of issues I've dealt with building issues and other matters at hand. I'm recommending to the City Council to remove Derek Hampton as the city's electric superintendent.
Is there a second part to that as well?
Yes, there is, and if council does agree to his recommendation, you're recommending somebody as an interim director?
Oh, yes, I am recommending Freddie Morgan step in as interim director.
Okay. That is the resolution before you. Is there any discussion on the item? If there is not any discussion or questions, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign, and the motion carries. Is there any other business that needs to come before council this evening? If not, chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.